there's an issue with the officiating. And when you speak to people around the league, they believe it's as bad as it's been in a long time, maybe ever. I think the league office themselves, if they were being honest, was not happy with the calls in that game. I mean, there are all sorts of issues here that they need to go over.
The NFL has a huge problem on its hands, and this is something that I didn't really touch on in my quick reaction video to the AFC Championship, primarily because, well, this was way too dense of a topic for me to get out to you guys immediately following the game. But now that I had a day and a half to actually review the footage of the game and watch over the game a couple more times, I will admit that the NFL has a huge problem on its hands. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We are on the road to 700,000 subscribers. Every subscriber means the world to me, man. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! A lot of you guys have been hitting me up in the DMs telling me how much money you've been making on Prize Picks. A huge shout out to my subscriber Spencer Sims, who's made $7,000 off of his picks over the past 2 weeks. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I play Prize Picks religiously and I post my picks to my story each and every day. If you want to try out Prize Picks right now, when you use my promo code Mikerophone, you'll get up to a $100 deposit match on your first deposit. And if you get any big hits on Prize Picks, make sure you DM them to me on Instagram so I could feature you in future promos. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? If you look through my messages right now, I was texting a close friend of mine the other day, Jamari, shout out to you if you're watching this video, bro, that the NFL storylines and the games have just been so fantastic recently. It's almost been too good recently. If you remember last year's playoffs, the entire playoffs was loaded with remarkable action. I mean, from Kyler Murray's meltdown to the Los Angeles Rams in the wild card round, to the remarkable game that we had between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round, to the San Francisco 49ers once again destroying the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round as well, to Tom Brady nearly coming back against the LA Rams in the divisional round, all the way to a Super Bowl that featured two teams that no one was picking in the beginning of the season that had a fantastic finish. Now, you could make the argument that, hey, maybe something was fixed in this game because the game was played at SoFi Stadium and the LA Rams were in it, but I didn't really get that type of feeling last year. This year, however, I was a little disappointed by the championship games. Now, I know what you're gonna say.
Mike, you're only saying that because you're a Cowboy fan and the Philadelphia Eagles won.
I feel like everyone that isn't a Philadelphia Eagles fan probably feels the same way as I do about the NFC Championship. And to be honest, that was primarily because the San Francisco 49ers didn't really have a quarterback, and that was unfortunate. But what was really interesting and what really caught my eye is what one anonymous San Francisco 49er player said to Mike Silver. Now, you have to bear in mind, you could make the argument that this is just being made up. At the same time, a professional football player isn't going to come out and say point blank that that game was rigged. I mean, obviously, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them, so obviously they're going to try to stay anonymous. But check out this quote, and it's a little chilling. It felt like once Brock Purdy got hurt, someone at the league called down and said, make sure the Eagles get to the Super Bowl and not them. The NFC Championship game had horrific officiating. I mean, starting from the Devontae Smith 4th down reception in the very beginning of the game and moving on forward, I just feel like people weren't paying attention to that one as much, mainly because, well, Brock Purdy was injured, so it was a very one-sided affair at that point. But what was a little bit more egregious was the AFC Championship, and the officiating was so bad that it caused hashtag NFL is rigged to trend on Twitter following the games, which is a far cry from what happened last year. Last year, we were all complaining about the overtime rules. We wanted to see Josh Allen get an opportunity to get the ball again against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Divisional. Unfortunately, we didn't get any games that even came close to that this year, and I guess that could actually be a testament to the games not being fixed. But when you understand what's on the line here, the idea kind of makes sense. Moving on to the AFC Championship game, the very basic question that people might ask is, why would the NFL want the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl over for a team like the Cincinnati Bengals once the Philadelphia Eagles made it in. We actually made a short about this called The Best Super Bowl Ever like 2 to 3 weeks ago. I think it was like one of my best aging shorts of all time, where I said the number one Super Bowl that we could have as a result of this year's playoffs would be the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. You have Andy Reid facing off against a team that he is without a doubt the most storied head coach of without winning a Super Bowl. But people that have been watching football since the early 2000s could attest to how important Andy Reid was to the history of the Philadelphia Eagles, even though he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring to show for it. Then you also have the Kelsey brothers facing off against each other. You have the fact that both the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs are number one seeds facing off against one another. Both teams are fantastically balanced. You have the Philadelphia Eagles suffocating defense going up against one of the most prolific offensive quarterbacks of all time. And that's not to say that the Philadelphia Eagles offense is a joke either. With that being said, now that we understand what the motive would be for the NFL to potentially fix these games, let's take you through the entire game to really figure this one out for ourselves. Because this isn't something that I'm just pulling out of my butt. Adam Schefter went on record to say the NFL knows they have a problem.
If the league knows it has an issue on its hands, it has to be addressed, and the league knows it needs to do better.
This was trending on Twitter. I'm not trying to push out like some sort of theory, because if you guys watched my recent Damar Hamlin videos, you guys would know I don't really believe in far out there theories like that. Let's go all the way to the very first thing that caught my eye, and that's the 3 3rd and 9s. A lot of people made fun of this, saying that the Kansas City Chiefs were given a 5th down. On this drive on 3rd and 9, the Kansas City Chiefs snapped the ball and ran a play that was unsuccessful. Following this play, the referees stated that the play doesn't count because, well, they didn't spot the ball correctly, and they even tried to blow a whistle to warn everybody, but the referee's whistle apparently didn't work. Now, this part in of itself has multiple parts to it, and to back up the referees, I kind of understand the rule that they're stating. If you look over here, the line of scrimmage is supposed to be right over here, but it was moved back a little bit. But the thing that's kind of interesting to me is this is something that I've never seen before. I've never seen a referee try to blow a play dead in order to state that,
hey, we missed the ball by a whole yard.
On top of that, the referee says on the microphone that the play clock and the game clock should start on his signal, but the play before this was an incomplete pass, so the game clock shouldn't be running because the game clock doesn't run following an incomplete pass. It only runs when you get tackled. Technically, according to NFL rules, the moment a referee runs onto the field and tries to stop a play is over, even though no one sees it. So to give you an idea of what went down, 1, the clock was messed up, and 2, the spot of the ball was incorrect. And as a result of no one seeing the referees, the Chiefs ran the play anyway, and it was unsuccessful. And what made things even worse is on the very next play, of all things that could have happened, Eli Apple gets called for a defensive hold. Now, this defensive hold would automatically give the Kansas City Chiefs a 1st down. This was the worst possible thing that could have happened for this game. If you wanted to give Cincinnati Bengals fans and theorists something to run away with, it's automatically giving the Kansas City Chiefs a 1st down no matter what happens on the very next play if they were unsuccessful. Now, to be fair, this was clearly a hold by Eli Apple, which, by the way, shout out to Eli Apple's mom. We got her off of Twitter as a result of, well, Eli Apple's horrific play. If you made it to this point of the video, give me a Cancun on 3 in the comment section down below. But we're not even close to being done. It gets way worse as the game continues. Joe Burrow would get the ball back at this point, and while he's backed up all the way in his own end zone, he clearly gets roughed by Frank Clark, way after getting rid of the ball. I don't necessarily see a flop over here, and I don't blame Joe Burrow for the reaction that he has. He got rid of the ball for a whole second before Frank Clark hit him over here. So if there's anything that indicates that the referees were inconsistent as hell, it would be this play right here. Now, I wanted you guys to be aware of as well, despite the Kansas City Chiefs getting 3 third downs pretty much and an automatic 1st down, nothing would come out of that play. Despite Joe Burrow not getting an automatic 1st down for roughing the passer here, you would still convert a major 3rd and 13 to Hayden Hurst to move the chains, and nothing would really come out of that drive either. So you could make a very legitimate argument that nothing really came out of the mistakes that the referees made, but there were other things in this game, especially at the latter part of the game, that irked me personally. One of the more underrated ones that no one is talking about is an intentional grounding call on Joe Burrow over here towards the end of the game. The game's on the line here. This could potentially be the Cincinnati Bengals' final drive, and Joe Burrow almost gets sacked by Chris Jones. So he throws the ball into the ground, and he's clearly in the pocket still, so the referees call intentional grounding. The most embarrassing part about this is literally hearing Gene Steratore telling us that there was no receiver in the area as we watched the ball slowly dribble to Samaje Perine's feet. This was not intentional grounding. I mean, the ball lands in this area and Samaje Perine's right here. Now, if you really want to be a stickler about this call, you could say that the ball was behind the line of scrimmage by 2 to 3 yards, and as a result, that's intentional grounding. At the end of the day, we're talking about a difference of a few yards and a call that without a doubt would influence the outcome of this game. And probably the most egregious no call of this game would come on the second to last play of the game. On 3rd and 4, Patrick Mahomes would drop back heroically with 17 seconds left on the clock, and he wouldn't be able to find anybody, so he would opt to scramble to the right, where unfortunately he would get hit with an unnecessary roughness call from Joseph Osai, which would send the young man crying, by the way. I mean, I felt so much empathy for Osai following this play, not only because he was repeatedly shown crying on the sidelines, but also because he had a teammate say this about him.
This my last year. Why you cut the quarterback?
Now, fortunately, Osai also had some good teammates defending him. A huge shout out to BJ Hill, man. You're awesome for doing this.
Dumb question. Come on. He played his butt off the whole game. Ask a different question.
How hard is that to kind of not put all that weight on you as you go through this? I mean, it's just...
It's extremely hard, man. Come on, man.
I'm sure it's tough. I'm trying to ask him about it.
That's a really question, bro. Come on.
And then, of course, Jermaine Pratt would apologize, and I don't really blame him for that reaction because, well, your emotions get to you at a specific point.
It's a reaction that anybody have, a competitor, you know what was in stake, the time and moment, I mean, I love this game, no doubt in my mind. They talking about my character as a teammate. Some people don't never play this game. They don't know how much effort guys put in the game, A guy make a mistake, over and done with. I was emotional. I was in the moment. I was wrong. I would say I was wrong. As a man, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I was wrong. I wasn't a great teammate at that moment. But they don't define me as a man, But it is what it is, 24 hours. I'm going back to work. I got a great off season ahead with my kids and family.
But lost on this play was the fact that Orlando Brown got away with holding here. I mean, if there was holding called on this play, who knows? Maybe Patrick Mahomes drops back and fires a strike to one of his 3rd or 4th string wide receivers and is able to move the chains. After all, man, I am a Mahomes fan. I don't want you guys to think that I have a horse in this race. Bad officiating's bad officiating, no matter who is playing. The fact that no holding call was called on Orlando Brown here, a horrible look. Do I think the NFL did this on purpose or anything of that sort? I mean, there's not really a way for me to prove it. Obviously, whenever there's horrific officiating, people are going to say that, and that's the worst thing that could happen to your sport, people thinking that it's fixed or rigged for a particular direction. But I will say the officiating was horrific, and it's something that the NFL needs to address. I mean, this is replacement ref levels bad in terms of officiating. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? Do you agree with the referees' calls? Do you agree with me? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.